Hello and welcome. This is Sunday League Virtual. We are here once again and we are here for the Indian Grand Prix in Season 3. This was one of the tracks voted to be coming back for Season 3 of the competition. It was up for grabs with its contract expiring, and the team principals voted to keep it around for the racing action that it so often provides us. In previous years, the race has been won by this man, Mr. Kubo, currently running quite well, and it's also been won and done by, let's see if we can find him somewhere here, Mr. Andres, who won in Season 1. Hetmenica was on the podium, as he is here, on both occasions. His teammate, however, Julo, is currently in first position. That is a very curious place to see a Porsche. Very curious indeed. Let's see how he's running. Will he be able to continue this? Obviously, in real life, we saw him run in a very high spot in qualifying on lap 1 in Losail, but he wasn't able to take his first pole in his final SL race. Kubo, it's a Polish top 3 here. Look at this. Kubo leads Rito, leads Julo. That is really outstanding. So obviously, something to mention. Team Velocity running a gorgeous special livery today. The deep scarlet red and white colour scheme that we haven't seen. No red and white really from any other team in this competition. So it should be really interesting to see a team brave those colours for the first time. And let's see if they can actually do well with it. Is it going to be pole position for the pole on pole? Yes, it will. Kubo puts in a stauncher of a lap, and Kubo will sit on pole position for the Indian Grand Prix. Let's have a look at the rest of the grid as we see it. Rito will start on the front row, and Julo will start in third. That's a Polish top 3. Then we've got Sobel in 4th. Urus will start 5th. Bluebell in a BAV sandwich. The BAV 6th and 7th. Jake Brad lower down. He also didn't do that well last race. Only 7th come the checkered flag, so he's going to hope to do better this time. Andres starts 8th. Remember, he has won races from 8th position before. Don't put it past him. Goose will start 9th, and Hetmenica 10th for Porsche. 11th is Grandies, right ahead of Amazing, and Pit Crew right on his rear. It's a little THX sandwich there. Kamikaze will start 14th, ahead of Vladinator. Then it's SFR and FVR on the next row. Also Jaruni there, Anti, then Spuda. It's Ekolowski, and then Hernandi for now whatever it is, quite a few races in a row that he has been very last place. I might fear to see him getting a continuation with the KRT team that he's been at since Season 1 if he keeps on putting in performances like this. Right, it should be really, really interesting this race, obviously, and we'll just have a little look at it here, how the upgrades have gone for this week. If you look at the column on your right, BFX and VLO both got double upgrades, 1 speed, 1 acceleration. WTEC also got acceleration, and then THX got acceleration, and FVR got grip. So only in total 7 upgrades out of 20 succeeding. What that means for the championship is really interesting. BAV still the best car, a 6.7 index score. BFX, though, very much closing in with BAV failing both upgrades and BFX increasing their score by 0.8, as did VLO. They're up to 5.8 now, and PRG right behind, 4.9 for them, 4.4 for WTEC, and now they've gotten a successful acceleration upgrade. That just takes them right ahead of SFR, who have been falling down both the index rankings and the Constructors' Championship, the only team apart from BAV who have fully run out of tokens. FVR 4.0 for them, THX right behind 3.8. That acceleration upgrade should help them out. Then it's still the scrap at the bottom, just 2 points separating FUR and KRT. If you think this fight is over, it most certainly isn't, because these two teams have a boatload of tokens to spend in the final 2 races. This should be absolutely fascinating. I'm really looking forward to this. Yeah, it's very close at the top, and you'll see we might have a couple surprises in here. Kubo changed his token plan very recently and dumped 4 tokens into this Indian Grand Prix. He's trying to bring that victory to Team Velocity. Can he do it? That remains to be seen. Rito spends no tokens and will start on the front row. Sort of echoes of last season where he was able to take pole positions, such was his dominance, without spending a single token. It's been a much more tumultuous year for the BFX team, but he's still up at that good pace. Julo starts third. He'll be spending 2 tokens today. Sobel spends no tokens as well, neither for either BFX. Jurist will spend none. Bluebell spends none. Jake spends none. We're sort of sensing a theme here. Andrew spends 3 in the WTEC and only 8th on the grid with 3 tokens, and with a car that realistically, if we just look at that again and hide the tokens, get that back up, the WTEC is a 4.4 rating. It is a fair amount behind those ahead, but 3 tokens is a lot of tokens. You have to argue that. So let's see if that can actually make hay of something there. Apple Amazing will spend 3 tokens. He starts from 12th position, as you can see on the bottom of your screen. Then it will also be Game On Goose spending 2 tokens. He'll start 9th. And Kamikaze spends 3. He starts 14th, I believe. Yeah, there we go for Fuerza Roja. So really, really fascinating. We have lots of drivers in that top 10, in that top 7. We've only got... Is it only Kubo spending tokens in the top 7? Kubo and Julo spending tokens in the top 7. That is unbelievable. So all of these cars that are just these perfectly constructed machines, brutal forces of nature. And we've now got that Scarlet Team Velocity looking to take victory. It's always been great wheel-to-wheel fighting here around the Bure International Circuit. We'll have to see what we get today, but we are ready to go racing here in India. 5 lights ahead of the drivers. Kubo starts on the hards. We're underway here in India. He immediately goes to cover off Rito. Rito switches back into turn 1. Can he get the lead into the hairpin? Yes, he can. Will Sobel follow him through? He should get an exit on those softs, but he doesn't. Kubo uses the boost, as will Jurist. Not use the boost, but still get the speed to get past Rito. Rito loses 2 positions in the course of 1 straight. He's back down to 3rd position. After a very, very good opening couple corners, Sobel's thrown his teammate Andrews with a lightning style up to 4th position already, goes all the way round the sweeper there. Julo and Andrews both flank Rito. The man with no tokens goes from 1st to 6th in about half a lap. Jurist leads this one currently. It's Kubo, then it's Sobel and Julo looking to the outside at turn 1. Can he find the space there? Can he get past Kubo? No, he can't quite do either of those things. He does have the better drag down the straight, and Kubo's going very slowly into that next sharp right-hander. Can Julo go through on him? Yes, he can. Julo into 2nd place, looking for yet another podium for the Porsche Racing Group. This should be an absolutely fascinating duel. A reminder to you, to everyone watching, BAV can win the Constructors today, but in order to do so, they would need to take a 1-2 finish with the fastest lap of the race and hope that BFX score not a single point. With Rito in 4th and Sobel in 5th, that is already looking pretty difficult. Apple Amazing in 6th place. What a start for him. Remember, and this is really important, Ikolowski in the Italian Grand Prix at the Mugello circuit finished in 8th place, granting Fuerza Roja 4 points. Apple Amazing in the Turkish Grand Prix at Istanbul Park finished in 9th place, granting KRT 2 points. If he finishes 9th again, they will tie on points, currently with Fuerza Roja being ahead in the Constructors on a tie-break of having the highest finish of the season, that being 1/8th place as opposed to 2 9th places. So Apple Amazing ideally needs this position right here, 8th or higher, in order to keep that KRT team afloat. They had such a good season last season, but were hit so hard by the regulation changes, harder than any team really out there. Jurist up the inside of Kubo, these two fighting it out. It's really impressive to see the pace Kubo has on those hards in this early stint. We'll look at some more side-by-side battling. It's Julo and it's Sobel. Julo, of course, the CLV graduate from last season, finished 9th in the Constructors, but his teammate 19th. So you have to say that he probably did a really, really strong performance in a really bad car. However, rumours have it this will be his final season driving for the Porsche team, as it will be outlawed for team owners to take seats at other teams next season. That means the likes of Bluebell Boy won't be able to drive as well for the Team Velocity team, which was a sort of strange move that seems stranger by the minute in Sunday League Virtual, but we've still got, your normal names here. We've got Eurus, the man who is looking to take his second Drivers' Championship in only the third season of the competition. Kubo, who's never won it but made an instant impact in Season 2, is going to look to make an instant impact here, but Eurus has really good pace down the straight, even with Kubo's boost. He couldn't find his way past. That is really, really interesting to see. Just how he's trying to do that. Julo still in third place. Sobel, Rito, Bluebell and Goose Andrews ahead of Apple Amazing. He'll be looking for 8th or higher. A suggested Jake Brad running very dangerously close to outside the points. Remember, only 6 drivers spending tokens this race, who are Kubo spending 4, Julo spending 2, and neither of those guys. Andrews spends 3, Goose spends 2, Apple Amazing spends 3, and back down in 16th, Kamikaze, I believe, also spends 3. We've got a few cars into lane. Spooner, Anti, Picker, and Andrews all came in this lap off their softs. Andrews takes the hard. It looks like quite a few drivers might do that as well. Eurus now has a gap about a second, but those softs are going to start going off. It is a long lap time here in India. It's a 35-second lap, and that's on a good day. When you're coming to the pit lane, it can be pretty substantial here, as we see Eurus get passed by Julo, Rito, of course Kubo further up. The pole's still doing well, 43-second lap time as he exits the pit lane there. Happily looking for a move on Goose to the outside of turn 1. He goes wide into the gravel. That is what you get when you drive a shitbox. I suppose that you can't actually properly control your overtaking manoeuvres, but Apple Amazing, the man who made the menu, made the game, made everything here, can't make the move on the Bluebell boy. Goose running in 5th, he'll be looking to back up his win in Mugello, which was the only race not to have a BAV on the podium this season, if you want a little taste of that dominance. And let's see how he can do in this race, maybe take some major points. He'll pass Rita now as the pole, one of the many poles running up top, comes into the pit lane. It's 4th for Game on Goose on track. Kubo and Julo makes it a 1-2 for the nationality. Kubo looking to stretch it out. The clouds are coming. Let's see just if they can maybe wait it out for some rain. The hards could last another lap here, and another lap is not one to turn your nose up at, because that's nearly there's the best part of a minute. Definitely the best part of a minute there. Julo will dummy, but then go into the pit lane. Let's see how he can do here. But does the overcut work? He's definitely not going to stay ahead of Eurus. Question is about Sobel and Rito and Goose. And Julo usurps all of them. Rito is stuck behind Goose. Sobel not that far back. Goose still out there on his old hard compound tyres, still running in 4th position. Can he defend from Rito? Rito tries to use the boost. He's inching ahead into the braking zone, but he can't find the space on the outside. Goose closes that door on the exit of the corner, and Rito will have to try again another time. He'll follow on board. This is the closest battle that we've got in the top 5 at the moment. Rito up the inside into the sweep. A lovely manoeuvre there, and he just caught Goose napping there, which sort of makes sense since these races happen about 7 in the morning Goose's time. But yeah, really, really impressive, that overtaking manoeuvre from Rito. That's a PB lap of the race as well, so, don't turn your nose up at a good overtaking manoeuvre. He's going to set his eyes on Julo, the man spending 2 tokens, but Rito in the second fastest car, very close to being the fastest. And we'll have to see how long Eurus' good form can continue onwards. Kubo is still out on the hards, lap 11, and he should be coming in this lap. Very much does. Just that, Hanandi will come in from near last place behind him. Eurus will go through into the lead of the Indian Grand Prix. This race, of course, last year won by Team Velocity. They're going to have to look for a good win again. It was won by Kubo as well, and it was his old teammate Eurus backing him up there, but he's going to be backing him up in a very literal sense, as he tries to just slow down the charge of the Polish racer. The first man who's on the agenda, the first man that Kuba has to get past, is Julo, who has had such an impressive first season in Sunday League Virtual. It is such a shame he'll be losing that Porsche seat. It really, really is. That's a bit of a breaking news announcement, so there we go, but has been hinted at for a little while. It's really sad that he's been given the right machinery. It's a car with 6 speed and 4 grip, so it's obviously going to do well. It's taken podiums. Julo got one in Hungary, Hetmenica at Paul Ricard, and Hetmenica no doubt will be looking to take yet another victory at Malaysia, just as he did with Spire Motorsports back in Season 2. Kubo looking to take a victory here, and his move all the way around the outside at the sweeper is going to be the very first indication of that. We're 8 minutes down in this Grand Prix, and we've got a lot of racing to go, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this one. Eurus slightly compromised by Vladinator. Vlad's not going to give this one up just yet. Looks like those super fast racing cars, not super fast at the moment. They're currently down in 17th and 18th place. They are the next blue flags on the agenda. Kubo, look at this pace. He's caught Eurus immediately. Will he go inside, outside? It's going to be the inside into the sweeper. Will Eurus be able to hold on those medium compound tyres? They're a lot older and they are slower in a straight line. Kubo with 4 tokens. Put it full send today. The irony is he had 2 initially for this race. Could he have just won with 2 tokens? It's very possible. He's got a car that is really not that far off the back of the BAV. It's less than 1 index rating worse than the other red and white team. It's, of course, a special livery. It's supposed to be used for Jamosh in round 7, but it has been used instead for India, and they're looking to take a really strong victory this season, so it should be hopefully on the agenda for Kubo to do just that in their special car. We'll have a look at how he's been doing this season, because he's not been in the title fight really. It's not been about that. It's been a BAV showdown sort of, you would probably say, but if you're thinking about it, he has still been very, very good in many races. Yeah, Kubo has taken 2 second places this season and a fastest lap as well, so that is really nice to see. Can he take his first win of the season? He took 3 last season, remember. I believe he won in, this is going to be difficult to remember, something like Hungary, Turkey, and India, I think was the 3. Took 3 wins, didn't win the Constructors. Sorry, not the Constructors, the Drivers. He came 3rd in the championship in the end, and it was the consistency of the BFXs that won out there. This season we've had a new team dominating, but this team and this driver, Eurus, is looking very much under pressure from yet another Polish man. He skates around the double left-hander, still keeps the position. He's got to defend through here, and Julo looking to go around the outside, but can't find the pace to do so. They come up into the right-hander. Can Julo cut in here, keep the track? No, he doesn't. Eurus just edges him off, and Eurus will avoid any further conflict coming to the pit lane on the same lap as Kubo, but with a 4-second deficit, maybe more than that, since he was battling Julo right at the end of that lap. Will he lose position to Rito as he exits the pit lane? It's going to be close. Can Rito duck underneath? He's right up to the back of Eurus. Into the hairpin he goes. Rito takes a podium position here just for the time being. This should be fascinating to see. I believe Bluebell Boy was on the podium here last. Yes, I think he... No, or was he 4th? It was a really good fight. Sobel definitely was. Rito and Eurus fighting it out here. Eurus on his very fresh tyres. Rito actually on the softs. He's not spending any tokens, remember. And sort of similar to Kubo, it's been sad to see him not quite the formidable championship fighting force that he was in Season 2. Season 1, of course, went to Eurus, but Rito is looking very good there as well. The two of them fought it out, and Rito led a large amount of the championship right up to the last round, where a finish right down the order and a good result from Eurus as Antti, the man who's coming up to lap, won the Grand Prix in Kyalami. Meant that Eurus took 71 points that season, which was enough to give him the title. Rito back through on the softs. That's really interesting to see. Will Eurus struggle for a podium here? Obviously, all depends on strategy, and those softs are now getting more worn than the hards as we go through here. Judo still out on the very pretty much done hard compound tyre, but we are right on nearly halfway through this Grand Prix. It should be a very interesting showdown to see who'll get on the podium. And let's not forget Apple Amazing, a lap down, but he is running in 12th place. He has come in relatively recently. Kamikaze, the man who is fighting not only on track, but in the constructors. And it's the drivers, sure, you like points, you want to finish above people. This literally determines if Fuerza Roja will come up and go right back down, which you totally expect with them having the very worst car at the beginning of the season. But my oh my, it was a fantastic performance from Ikolowski at the Italian Grand Prix in Mugello. That's all that was needed. It was proven to be the most token needed track this season. You could see from the BAVs not spending any tokens. Jake Brad did not finish inside of the points, and Eurus struggled and didn't get a podium. Kubo comes to the lap Amazing, who laps his own teammate, Hanandi, just coming into the pit lane in last place at the moment. He is a little whiles off Ikolowski, who himself is a bit off Ladinator. It's just terrible pace. Those cars that Fuerza Roja and KRT, if they don't have the tokens to use, they don't get good results. Eurus and Rito still fighting here. It looks like Eurus has gone back past Rito's tyres. Pretty old. It's interesting to see the AI take the hards here, because the soft, you could argue, you could definitely argue it's a good tyre to use. It's a very flat out track, and Rito does go straight into the pit lane. Julo will get back through, and Sobel is pretty much looking out for the count. He's not stopped a third time yet, and I think he'll still emerge behind his teammate, who very much has. So that should be interesting to see. Rito, yeah, about a second advantage on his teammate with a lot fresher tyre. Same compound in the entire top 7, bar Kubo. Running on the hards. Is the medium a risk worth taking? We'll have to see for this Team Velocity driver whether that will actually work out for him. Jake Brad, a lap down. Poor old Jake, fighting for 1 point at the moment. He's got Amazing behind him, Hetmenica ahead, and Kubo coming up to lap him. Now we're going to have rain here, and that has played into the hands of Kubo quite nicely, Eurus quite nicely, Julo not that well, Rito very poorly. He had just pitted, but Sobel very nicely indeed. He's right up to the back of his teammate once again. Remember, there's no token deficit between the two BFXs, both on 0. Let's see who else is reluctant to come in. Het sort of served well. Jake had very recently pitted for some softs, so that is not good for him at all. And we've got a large amount of the grid now all out on those wet weather tyres. Kubo comes in, and Eurus and Julo will be 2 of the last drivers to pit. It is a long lap, and it's not one where you want to get stuck out of the pits when you really need to come in for a tyre that will just be able to clear that bit more water. Julo right behind Eurus now. This is the fight for second position. Julo 2 tokens, Eurus 2 more index ratings. So let's see how that can stack up. Maybe it's nearly equivalent. That would be a really interesting theory. But yeah, Eurus won the championship in Season 1. It was an interesting championship. The cars were, of course, before the upgrades into Round 1, the cars were dead on equal. Not a sausage between them. So it was a season very, very much based around token spending and how efficiently you could do that. Grandy led the championship early on, spending 5 tokens in the first race and 5 tokens in the second race. That was outlawed for the next season. I believe Hanandi, the man in last place, who really doesn't seem to like this track because he spent 5 tokens, and I think he was the last person to ever spend 5 tokens in SLV and only got 3rd place here. So that is a big L, as they would say. Eurus still trying to fend off Julo. Can Julo make it a Polish 1-2? Yet another podium for the Porsche team. He was very, very impressive in Hungary, only playing second fiddle to the 2 BAVs ahead of him. He's taken 2 third places this season, is just a little bit above Kubo. 2 points separate them in the standings at the moment. Kubo tied with Spuda, 1 point ahead of Antti, 2 ahead of Rito, and himself 1 ahead of Bluebell, 1 ahead of Andres, 2 ahead of Goose, then tied with Ladinator. So the top 12, sort of minus the top 3. Yeah, 4th down to 12th position. Really not separated by much, 9 points between them. And that's what we like to see in SLV. We had a great fight for relegation last season. There was 2 or 3 teams looking very much in danger. Quite a few looking pretty badly intertwined in that. I think going into the final race, almost any team in the bottom 6, as we see Julo finally does make that move, goes into his overtaking mood, and will go back into the normal racing line as Kubo looks to absolutely run away with it. So you think he probably could have saved a token and maybe gone for another race for some more points, because he is thrashing it out there. 26 points on the table for the Polish man in India. Yeah, it was an interesting season. I'm going to use this just to talk, because look at those gaps. There's no cars fighting apart from. Do we want to see the SFRs? Do we? I mean, we can. There they are. Vladinator coming up to the back of pit crew. Come on, Vlad, get through on him. 15th place belongs to the Russian man. He overtakes the Brazilian, who has had a pretty disappointing season. He was quietly consistent, pit crew, last time around. Less so this time. He's only managed 12 points and not a single podium to his name, so it's not been a good season for him or Thunder Rex, despite the fact that his teammate Grandy has managed 9 more points on him. But THX always in a weird position, really. As Kubo comes in, Pit Crew will have to sort of jolt out of the lane there a bit. There was a little bit of a blocking. Let's see what we get. Oh, Eurus slightly held up by Jake. That's not great to see. Julo has leapfrogged him. That's really interesting. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Obviously, Judo, I think, came into the pit lane ahead still, but he's going to look to stretch that gap. Look at the boost on that Porsche. Jesus Christ, love to see it. I think they've got 2 turbo. Not sure. Julo being held up by Jake Brad. This is a reminder that blue flag cars do not need to make way for those who are coming through faster, because why should they? Julo comes through on his teammate, and Het will now look to hold up Jake a little bit. Het goes wide there, but it has sort of worked. Jake is now behind, so that is a pretty good position to be in if you are a driver for Porsche, or if you're just a supporter of Porsche. So there you go. Het is in his own fight with Jake Brad. This is actually for positions. They're a lap down from their respective teammates running in 2nd and 3rd. Kamikaze, head of Amazing, who heartbreakingly looks to not be taking any points, barring some really good strategy, because this is such a speed-loaded track, and KRT very close to 2 speed, a 2nd speed upgrade for this week, but they're just on 1, and you can see the time they lose to the cars who are laps ahead. It's not looking pretty for the team in white and red and orange and yeah, white and orange, let's call it, and black. Amazing, what a legend he is. Kubo leads by 11 seconds. Julo, 2nd place. Eurist in 3rd. Then it's Sobel running in 4th, and Rito in 5th. Rito and Eurist took the hards, as did Andres and Goose. Bluebell takes the mediums. It's going to be softs for Jake Brad, 15 seconds off the Team Velocity car ahead of him, a lap down from Julo, running in 2nd place. Is he a lap down or 2 laps down? Hang on. I think he's just 1, right? Yeah, that would be a bit ridiculous otherwise. Jake in 9th. Menica took the hards. He's in 10th place. Let's see the strategy battle here, because this could actually be quite exciting. It really has been soft v hard this race. They're sort of a bit like Sunday League drivers. They know that they don't really want the mediums. We've only got 3 drivers on them at full stop. Eurus is dropping back on the hards. Will those come into play more so towards the end? The soft has a really poor lifespan. 5 to 8 laps is all that's recommended by the in-game counter durability. Glory be on its name. So the hards could take you to the end unless Kubo, Julo all planning these late stops. Kubo has easily a pit stop behind him back to his compatriot, so that should be a pretty easy choice for him to come into the pit lane. Rito in 5th place, and Andres looks to go through into 6th. Andres has had a little bit of a tumultuous season. He's not been on top form in some races. He's been alright in others, but he's not too good. He's 10th in the standings with just 1 second place to his name. So yeah, that's something. That's definitely something. Right, Rito, Sobel, Andres, Goose behind Bluebell, and Jake. A lap down now from his teammate who's in 3rd place, and he's sliding around on those softs. We'll have to see. Can the soft tyre runners make that right call and come into the pits? What would effectively now be this lap? Kubo does. Will Julo, will he extend? What's he going to be doing? He comes in. I have a feeling we'll see a lot of soft runners into the pit lane, and that will not hand the lead to Eurist, who was so far back that even after a pit stop for Kubo, Eurist is still not within 5 seconds of the Polish man in the lead. He picked bang on the right race to spend tokens, because 2 of the big token spenders were Amazing, Kamikaze, who running in 11th and 12th as it stands shouldn't provide much of a threat. And some others, Andres and Goose, spending tokens, but not in particularly front-running cars. Very midfield, and the midfield is pretty severed from the top runners at the moment, so his only threat was Julo. He's dealt with Julo well, and the BABs have not been on form. Eurist, though, much better than Jake. This does have championship implications. Eurist is, to my knowledge, only 4 points behind Jake in the standings. After this race, he'll be 6 points behind. After this race, he'll be 12 ahead if it finishes like this. So that will be Very interesting to see Sobel looking to hold on. He's in a bit of a no man's land. In fact, we could probably pull up the standings right now because there's not much else going on. Sobel in a bit of a no man's land, 87 points. He's got 2 wins this season, which is really, really good for him. But it's just not quite been his season. BFX haven't given him the right car. There you go. There's not much you can do about that, really. But he's going to look to hold that 3rd place in the standings coming into the final race. He finished top 10 in a car that was made by a team that got relegated. So that was really impressive. Julo and Kubo still fighting it out as it's Spuda, Anti, Rito, Bluebell, Andries, Goose and Vladinator all still over those top 10, sort of 4th down to 12th in the championship. Hernandi, Grandi and Bluebell in. Kubo still leads. Yura still in 2nd. This will be a bit of action here as we come on to the penultimate lap of the race. Julo is only a 2.5 back. Rito is 7.5 seconds back. He's not going to be making any progress, but his teammate Sobel is catching fast, but he's still having to battle Andries, who is on those old hards, and Anti comes into the pit lane. That is bizarre. So it's different strategies up and down the field. Julo will be closing in. Levy and Hetmenica, his team boss and teammate, will be willing him on. Maybe this is one final podium for him for Porsche. We'll have to see what he does next season, but it'll be very difficult for him to... He might replace Hernandi with himself. I could see that happening. Or we might see who has been a brilliant racer going to retirement. Finally, a bit of excitement here on lap 40. The rain has come. Urist and Julo already past the pit lane. Hetmenica goes in. He was in 9th position, a lap down. We'll have to see how that influences the end of the race. Remember, they have 90 seconds or maybe 60 seconds of running afterwards to still decide what they want to do, but it has been incredibly dominant from lights to flag. Kubo once again will win the Indian Grand Prix, and this time it wasn't even close. Julo comes through the final sector. He's going to be drifting wide. Does that allow Urist to catch him? Doesn't really, because Urist makes that exact same mistake. Julo once again wide. Urist also lots of cars into pit lane now. Julo takes 2nd and Urist will take 3rd. Rito is crawling through. Will the softs of Sobel help him out? Rito does look to be losing time. 4th and 5th for BFX as they comedically slide their way to the finish. Het will already unlap himself there. Andries look to be taking 6th place unless Goose has anything to say about that. The rain is intensifying, which is not going to be good at all for Bluebell, who is being chased down by Hetmenica, but surely too late for Het, who was probably already ages back coming into that end part of the race, but he has made a bit of progress. It's not going to be enough. The top 8 didn't pit. That was the right call. 8th place for Bluebell, a very solid haul of points for Team Velocity. Hetmenica, one of the earliest pitters, looks to take 9th place, and Jake Brad for British Aerial Virtual 10th. So recapping, Kubo by 15 or 16 seconds rather wins the Indian Grand Prix, takes the first lap of the race, 26 points for him. For Team Velocity, it'll be 30, with Bluebell Boy finishing 8th. Julo on the podium, Urist right behind him. Rito and Sobel 4th and 5th, taking home a really nice and solid 22-point haul for Team BFX, and actually outscoring BAV this weekend. So not only did BAV not achieve their goal of winning the Constructors by having essentially the perfect weekend and hoping BFX screw it up, they've come further away from it, but BFX will need to make huge gains in the final races, and with Eurus still finishing ahead of both of them, it should be impossible seeing it to go to anyone else, really. Would be very impressed to see BFX take 2nd consecutive Constructor. 3rd it would be in the history of the team's passage as Comedy Racing, as they were owned by Julian in Season 1, sold off to BFX, also won it in their only season. Andries 6th, Goose 7th, Bluebell 8th, Het 9th. Nice weekend for Porsche, or round for Porsche. 10th is Jake Brad's Apple Amazing, 9 seconds back. Didn't manage the points today. He'll be gutted with that, but lots of tokens left to spend for KRT and FUR. So keep an eye on that up to the penultimate race of the season. And then the final race tokenless. Who knows what will happen. Kamikaze 12th. Just a second behind Apley. That's going to be bragging rights if nothing else. Spuda 13th. Jaruni. Then it's Vladinator and Anti. Just not finding the pace today with no tokens. They've done it in the past. Not here. Grandi and Pit Crew 17th and 18th. Then it's Ekoloski and Hernandi. Thank you for watching a race that hopefully, if you did have trouble sleeping before, you won't now. but it does have championship implications, so I shouldn't slander it. It has been interesting in our run into the final few races. Just 3 left, 2 where you can spend tokens, 1 where you won't, and with the 3rd season and maybe the last season of Sunday League Virtual will come to a close in mid-February. Until then, bye-bye.